Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin, and this is the first ever podcast live on YouTube. We're going to test it out, see if there's value here going live versus posting just the audio. So welcome for anybody that tunes in who's never tuned in before. My name is Kyle Blondin. What we do here is we're a sports and sports betting podcast, and now visual, I guess, for what it is. That we look at the world of sports betting from a square perspective. And if you don't know what a square is, it's kind of an amateur. And to be honest, I mean, there are pros out there that bet sports, that grind and look for edges, and that's exactly how you want to do this if you want to be making money instead of dropping money. But to be honest, you know, I've been doing this for my whole life, but I'm still probably in that square standpoint, so I like to promote this podcast as such, is that we are in it together. I'm just like you. I'm just the guy with the podcast that tries to look at it from a perspective of a gambler trying to get better. And hopefully you can enjoy the ride, enjoy the topics we talk about today. And today's podcast is meant to focus on the NHL and the beginning of the Stanley Cup playoffs that kick off tomorrow. So we'll get into that. We'll go through each series. Extensive notes, my takes, looking at various sports books and what offers are on the table and what value might be out there for you to consider. This is for fun. I am not directing you in any way to unload or mortgage the future, your financial future, on any one bet or multiple bets that I talk about here today or any other podcast, so be careful, please. And if you want to follow the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast, you can do so on X at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. That's the name they gave me. I tried to do the full Overrated Experience, but no go. That was what X provided, or Twitter at the time. And here we go. So if you just maybe looking forward in the future, a lot of our podcasts had a focal point that was NFL related, betting related, player props, game spreads, over-unders. And right now, after football season, you get into March Madness, you get into UFC, you get into baseball. But really what lit the fire here was a lead up to the NHL playoffs where, I'm a huge hockey fan, NHL fan, have been for my whole life. But, I would say in the last few years, there's been kind of like, kind of a subtle decline in, having to keep an eye on every aspect of the NHL, player movements, roster movements, key injuries, records being chased. And this year, it's built up a little more. I mean, I'm not going to lie. The Four Nations tournament that you probably did watch if you are a hockey fan really put back into my mindset that these guys care and that they're willing to go to the wall to win a game, to win a series, to win a championship. So he got me back on board as we led up to the playoffs here. I sat down, looked at many of these series, looked at some of the data, and did my best to compile information that you may find valuable, or at least gives me a situation where I can make a decision based on the data in front of me. I'm going to be on my Red Bull today, my water, just to keep the energy flowing and keep the voice going. We have no sponsors, but hey, if you want to be a sponsor, let me know. I'm willing to take your money because the podcast is going to happen one way or another. So here we go. NHL playoffs, absolutely pumped. NHL 2024-25 season. Now, a couple notes before we get into each of these games. Some good, some bad, some indifferent. Some of the highlights include looking at the schedule released by the NHL. I mean, we pretty much knew by Thursday night, after the Habs won and beat the Carolina Hurricanes, that they were going to be the final wild card spot in the Eastern Conference and take on the Washington Capitals. But, as of Friday, let's say Thursday, mid-Thursday, there was only the two games, scheduled, at least publicly, and that was for Saturday's matchups, Winnipeg and St. Louis, as the early matchup at 6:30-ish, I believe, and the 8:30-ish game is going to be Dallas and Colorado. But it was pretty much late on Thursday where we found out where the schedules lied, and wow, what a weird scenario. Like I'm willing to kind of give this a chance to understand what the rationale is, but you have, two series opening Saturday, and a couple series opening on Sunday. You have a series open on Monday, and then topped off by the Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning play game 1 on Tuesday. Wow, off the top of my head, I'm not sure where the NHL was going on this. I know that they're restricted because they have their TV partners in TNT, Sportsnet, and ESPN. Or do I give them the benefit of the doubt and give them, just maybe there's a strategy involved here, potentially, that if we have a few short series, have they planned it out so that we will not have, days where there is no NHL hockey? Or at least limit that opportunity? That could be it. That might be the strategy. That's me giving a Red Bull half full or a Stanley Cup half full of optimism. So that's something there. People complain about the seeding in the NHL right now. For many years, it's been locked into divisions and wild cards. And, an example, the Oilers and Kings meet for a fourth consecutive time in the first round. And there's cries for changes. I think the NHL got lucky this year. Lucky, Gary, you got lucky. Let's not kid ourselves. That the matchups, there's enough matchups in here that are intriguing and of interest where maybe the chatter is not going to be about the current playoff format. But come on, guys. Big picture, 1 through 8 is your best method. You're going to have fresh matchups. That's what people want. All right? And the NHL, obviously, probably, I'm pretty sure, has an economical reason, a TV reason to why they refuse to go to the 1 to 8. But when they start spewing, this is what the fans want. There's no complaints. We don't want to change. I get it because it's economic. They want to lock in a bracket so that there is no surprises. There is no, mystery matchups in further rounds where the top seed continues to play the lower seed. And if there's an upset, it changes the balance of things in that particular conference. However, there has to be a balance between sport and economics. So I think the economic part of this is taking over where the demand for the 1 to 8 is high enough where there has to be serious consideration to move back to that format because it did exist before. And people love that matchup and they're not loving this matchup, but you got lucky. You got lucky, Gary, because that, we'll talk about it in a bit, but that Kings-Oilers matchup, it is intriguing because things got a little nasty in that final game where the Oilers suited up their B team. Darnell Nurse got suspended for the last regular season game, and there's some bad blood going into that series, so people are going to forget of the bore fest that possibly could have been between the Oilers and the Kings, but now it's on. So that's a couple news and notes, but we're pumped to get into the NHL playoffs, and we're going to kick it off game by game. I got a bunch of information. I don't know if you're going to find it valuable. I hope you do. I'm going to go through it and try to crunch it in and come through with a coherent thought of where I think these series are going. I'm also going to talk about what if this series, if one of these teams loses, what is their future? How are they thinking going into next season? Is it devastating? Is it no big deal? Or is it, okay, time to turn the page on this and break it all down and rebuild from the bottom and try to get on top in a few years and put my fan base through hell, okay? Red Bull. Is it giving me wings? I think it might be. Well, first series that's going to kick off is the quietly, and I say quiet, the Winnipeg Jets are the President's Trophy winners for most points in the NHL. And has there been a quieter President's Trophy winner coming into the playoffs that you can recall? Last year, the Rangers won the President's Trophy. It tells you that maybe people do not consider it a big deal or a correlation to success in the playoffs if a team does follow through in the regular season with the best record. Well, the Rangers, they didn't win a Stanley Cup last year after the President's Trophy and are not in the playoffs this year. So, maybe the idea of the President's Trophy is not a big deal. I was going to talk about this earlier too, but I think the NHL, for the betterment, has to look at the Stanley Cup is obviously the top dog. This is the top echelon of where you're going to achieve in the NHL. No question. There's no question. There's other things about the sport like the Olympics, the Four Nations that sprinkle, interest in the league, and you want to win these things. But there has to be more value. It's for your own good. there has to be more value that the Winnipeg Jets or any team winning the President's Trophy for the best record in the regular season, 82 goddamn games you're playing. It's got to mean something. And it's okay to have a tiered approach to your fan base where I, as a Winnipeg Jets fan, should be proud that you were able to capture the President's Trophy. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that nobody gives a shit, and that's wrong. I think you devalue your sport if you're not looking at tiered approaches. Are you having a parade because you won the President's Trophy? No. Are you celebrating it? Yes. Despite what happens in the playoffs, there has to be some sort of accomplishment. And if you look at referencing English football or European football, you have a Manchester City that, has had a struggle. They're one of the top teams in Europe, or expected to be the top teams in Europe. Not going to win a Champions League, not going to win an EPL championship, but they might win an FA title. And there's something there. It's a trophy. Again, there's a tiered expectation of what that trophy means compared to a Champions League, but it's not brushed off. So that's just a quick note. I'll get off my soapbox and get to the series. So I'll also mention each of these teams for you non-hockey fans out there or maybe new to the game that just talk a little bit about their Stanley Cup history. So the Winnipeg Jets, formerly the Atlanta Thrashers, the Winnipeg had the Winnipeg Jets, which were moved to Arizona, now the Utah Hockey Club. So you really got to do your research to follow along some of these teams, just like any other sports that some of these franchises bounce around before they settle. The Winnipeg Jets, though, President's Trophy winners, they have a history of 0 Stanley Cups. And I'll tell you what, they also don't get much respect. They're not getting much respect when it comes to the odds on winning the Stanley Cup. They are FanDuel plus 850, Bet365 plus 900, and DraftKings, if you want the real value, plus 1100. That's where you're going to get your value if you're banking on the Winnipeg Jets making a run here and being a serious contender for a Stanley Cup. And again, also note, each series I'm going to use FanDuel, DraftKings, and Bet365 as comparisons to all these bets. I know that there's hundreds out there. I know that there's many sports books, especially in Canada and the United States, that are options. It may show us more options and value plays than I'm going to present here today. That's fine. I just want to let you know those are the 3 books. Again, I'm going to diverge here because I should have mentioned this off the top, is that I was kind of disappointed, especially being Canadian, where hockey is huge, and these sports books for the last few years are dedicated to each market, right? There's FanDuel in Ontario, which is in Canada. There's FanDuel across the United States for each particular state. And I don't get the sense that they've cashed in on the opportunity, let's say, to provide various options for betting. And out of the 3 that I looked at, DraftKings was far better. If you wanted some unique plays, not everybody is looking for over-unders or series or most points. They want some unique plays. And I found that Bet365 was kind of okay on it. FanDuel really weak on the options provided. And this is maybe a situation where these sports books are, really not fan friendly, and believe we're so desperate that we'll just bet whatever, and they're probably right. But at the same time, DraftKings, hats off to you because you've provided the best options, but I still expect more. But we'll go through that, and I'll touch base where my bets are coming from each sports book. Now, when you look at the Winnipeg Jets, and by me, if you see my eyes going down and reading my notes, extensive notes about each of these series. So I looked at things like key injuries coming into the playoffs. And the Winnipeg Jets, right now, there's one big injury that's really impactful. It is Nikolai Ehlers of the left winger for the Winnipeg Jets. Now, if you didn't notice, one of the last few games the Jets played, he ran into an official on the ice, and he's week to week. He's an impact player. Nick Ehlers was 3rd in points for the Winnipeg Jets. Impact player, 20-plus goals, really a difference maker. And when you're in the NHL playoffs, you got to have all hands on deck because if you're looking to make a run, you got to hope that your health is on your side. And it's not a good sign when Nick Ehlers runs into a linesman or a referee and is out. So not good for the Jets. But will that impact the series against the St. Louis Blues? I don't know. We'll get to that in a second. So this series kicks off Saturday. The Winnipeg Jets have home ice advantage. And what stands out to me about the Winnipeg Jets here is, and something to consider, they have the number one power play in the NHL this year. When special teams will be critical, doesn't mean that the regular season will translate to the playoffs as the checking gets tighter. But I do believe it's significant to know heading into that first round, if you're looking at anything such as player props on points, goals, the Winnipeg Jets' bread and butter is on the power play. And they're number one, and I don't expect them to necessarily slow down as they go into this first series. Penalty kill, which is another core one I looked at, they're only 15th, so they're mid-row. Some other stats specifically to the Jets, good or bad, that stand out. Their shooting percentage is third, meaning that they 12% of their shots turn into a goal. And then goals, 12%, I think shooting percentage. So 12% of their shots turn into goals. And goals in total, they average 3.37 goals a game in the regular season. That's fourth best in the NHL. So expect them to use their offensive firepower against the St. Louis Blues. The Blues, let's go back to one of the keys. One of the keys to the Winnipeg Jets, and this is not only for the first round series, but for the whole thing, the whole series, the whole shebang, is Connor Hellebuyck, the soon-to-be Conn Smythe, according to the odds, as playoff MVP. Absolute Vezina. I can't see that changing because the voting is cut off regular season. Connor Hellebuyck, probably waste of time to put two other goaltenders up against him. So he comes into the playoffs, and his reputation is, does he perform in the playoffs? Right now, the choke is kind of on his side. And he needs to prove that if he wins that Vezina trophy and he shits the bed in that first round, his reputation is going to be changed. And he looked at it as a choke, and he has to live with that for another year. So it's really important that he steps up and plays like he does in the regular season, the playoffs. He's facing Jordan Binnington of the St. Louis Blues, who beat him in the final in the Four Nations tournament for Team Canada. So a lot to prove there. And then you look at the roster of the Jets, man. Kyle Connor, this guy's an unsung. If he played with the Rangers, the Leafs, the Habs, you would absolutely know who he is. He's an American left winger. 96 points this year. Dominant player. And again, playoffs, power play, I see him doing some damage. Scheifele, Ehlers, hopefully he'll be back. Josh Morrissey on the D, Velarde. The Winnipeg Jets is also, they're a kind of franchise that has looked, been managed very well. And what I mean by that, if you look at other leagues like baseball, the Tampa Bay Rays don't have the biggest budget, but they find talent. They find free agents that perform. They find late round picks that come up and are able to add to their pitching staff. Same thing with the Jets. Shoveldayoff, the general manager, has had the skill set to take maybe not the most desirable location in Winnipeg, understand that he's in that situation, being able to re-sign a guy like Mark Scheifele to a lengthy contract, which they didn't think he would do. Even more important is Connor Hellebuyck to a lengthy contract, so he'll be sticking around, and they got a foundation. And they just signed Pionk, they're one of their top defensemen, and I think Velarde also signed their second or third centerman, which is absolutely what that franchise needs. So watch out, the Jets might be dangerous. As we look at the St. Louis Blues, I don't see them coming into the series taking Winnipeg out. Let's be honest. They were the hottest team. Jim Montgomery, head coach for the St. Louis Blues, came into the organization after being let go from Boston, turns the Blues around. Boston doesn't make the playoffs, but St. Louis comes in on a wild ride where they win 12 in a row near the end of the season there to put them into playoff contention and finally solidify that number 2 wild card spot in the Western Conference. So when you look at the roster of the St. Louis Blues, I don't know. The St. Louis Blues had a hell of a run to end the season. They got guy like Dylan Holloway, who's hurt week to week. Robert Thomas left late in the season. I don't know what his status currently. He should be ready for Game 1. If you know Torrey Krug, he's been out forever, a former Boston Bruin, but he's out. And that's not significant because he's been out, for a lengthy period of time before this 12-game run they had. Power play wise and penalty kill wise, both middle of the road for the St. Louis Blues. 18th in the NHL in the power play percentage. Penalty kill, 27th. No other stat really stood out to note. Jordan Binnington, guy's face, he's got to stand on his head. He's got to be a monster out there. He's got to frustrate the Winnipeg Jets. I don't see it happening. I think the Jets win this game. The Blues got Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, Dylan Holloway. These guys produce points for them. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's going to be much in the way for the Jets to destroy this St. Louis Blues team. That's what you care. 5 or 6 at best. 5 or 6 at best. So nobody's going to take the minus 210 or 180 on DraftKings for the Jets to win the series. However, some plays to consider for this series. St. Louis Blues, Game 1, Jets, over 5.5 plus 120. Now, like I said, the firepower of the Winnipeg Jets, number 1 in the power play. They were run and gun with the Colorado Avalanche last year in a series loss, but it seems like the first round tends to have more goals. So I got to believe each of these series, with a few exceptions, you want to look on the high side, because as we trickle through to the second round and third round, that's where things get really tight. So look for the advantage of these 5.5s, especially if you see a plus. And I think Game 1, you'll see a 5-1, 5-2 kind of win for the Winnipeg Jets. And we look at, if I look on FanDuel, series spread, the alternative spread, meaning that it's not just winning, they win by amount of games. And Winnipeg Jets to win by 2 or more games to close out the series is minus 105. I think there's value there. Can you really see this game being pushed more than 6 games and the Winnipeg Jets not being on the winning side? I can't. So there's a lot of wiggle room here. I could see a sweep here. Could see 5 games, 6 at most, and that's in our favor. So minus 105 for the Winnipeg Jets. And this is where DraftKings comes through, and I love it. And the options are there, and I think you should check it out. Individual players, you look at, they got players props. Mark Scheifele to have 15 or more shots on goal in the series, plus 200. I think there's value there. If you look at the regular season, you look at a string of 6 or 7 games, he's close to that 15 shots on goal. But I got to believe in the playoffs, that what's going to happen is that these guys get double shifted, they get more ice time. They tend to, they're not looking to get on a plane to get to the next city on their road trip. They're looking to pounce and destroy these other teams. The adrenaline's going. So look for Scheifele to be a big factor. And just to put pucks on net, I like that value of the plus 200. Also, you have Jordan Kyrou with the St. Louis Blues, one of their top point producers. And 20 shots during the season, plus 220. Now, keep in mind, Jordan Kyrou, he puts the puck on net. He puts the rubber on net, so there is value here. And you got to look at the St. Louis Blues will be desperate, and they got to put the puck in their hands of their players. He's going to be rifling the puck on Kyle Hellebuck. He's not afraid to shoot, so that's good value there. Also, you look at Bet365, you look at the total points. Who's going to lead this series in points? And who other than Kyle Connor? What a name. Kyle, can't be a loss there, right? That's got to be a winner. Anybody with that name, trust them. They're going to lead you away. So Kyle Connor, right now, most points, he's plus 250 on Bet365. So what happens if each of these teams, let's look at it from perspective, if one of them goes out in the first round. St. Louis Blues, kind of iffy on what that would look like. I mean, their expectations were probably a little higher, as you can tell if they make that coaching change to Jim Montgomery halfway through to get this team into the playoffs. If they lose, I got to believe that they got to take a serious look at the franchise. And I see this team making another run, not too many significant deletions off this roster, but may look to make a splash in free agency. So not much from a St. Louis perspective. If the Winnipeg Jets somehow shit the bed here and get knocked out in the first round, I mean, you're going to look at Connor Hellebuck. He's not going anywhere, but he's going to have that choke label attached to his name. They got so much talent here. I don't think that they're kind of in a box, right? They can't go out and land a Mitch Marner or John Tavares. The odds are low. But when you got a roster like this, that's exactly what you're trying to do. So if they somehow lose in the first round, after winning the President's Trophy, look for Tim Cheveldayoff to maybe try to make a really smooth trade to change the structure of the team. But I'd be surprised if there's significant movement if they do lose with the kind of roster they got to put together on a yearly basis. But he may get creative, but it's not going to be burn it all down, scorched earth. So the Winnipeg Jets will march on. We'll see what they do there. But I don't see them losing. And we're on to the next series. The next series we're going to look at is the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, which is also a series that's going to kick off on Saturday night. Let me just get to that note in my super advanced notebook here instead of like electronics. Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche. Just go with Dallas first. The odds of them winning the Stanley Cup right now on FanDuel plus 650. They're one of the top co-favorites. Surprising with the team that I'll talk about later. DraftKings plus 650. Bet365 750. This is where I don't know if that the odds that you're seeing on these books match what somebody who is familiar with the game would consider a top contender for the Cup based on what we've seen over the last few years. The roster does have the talent, does have the goalkeeping. Jake Ottinger, one of the top goaltenders in the NHL. Not the top, but one of the top and could possibly go on a run. But I think there's a little more respect to the Stars, who did make the Stanley Cup final back in, years ago in the bubble when they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Dallas Stars do have one Stanley Cup. And I forgot to mention the Blues also have a Stanley Cup, by the way. Sorry. I got a lot of information here trying to make sure I'm staying on course and being consistent each series. But the Dallas Stars have a Stanley Cup. If you remember that series against the Buffalo Sabres, where the infamous Brett Hull, foot in the crease against Dominic Hasek, wins the Stanley Cup in overtime. We went through a whole NHL season where the controversy was any smidgen of a skate of the blue paint, a goal was called off, except the biggest moment of the season, which is still confusing. But the Dallas Stars come in as one of the heavy favorites to win the Stanley Cup. They will be on the road in Colorado. This is considered maybe the biggest matchup. Could be. It's a heavyweight fight. One of these teams is going to go home in the first round, which is a shame. But it's a reality. So how are we going to break this down? So for the Dallas Stars, key injuries. Well, good news for the Stars. Taylor Seguin is back. How back is he? I don't know. He returned for the final game of the Dallas Stars season, but he will be available for the Dallas Stars in their run. One thing that may be an impact was Jason Robertson, one of their top goal scorers and players, 80 points this season, was seen in a knee brace. I think it was a knee brace he had on based on an injury he picked up in the last game of the season. Now look how fucked this is. Is that many of these teams did rest talent as they played out meaningless games at the end of the season. It's like Nathan McKinnon for the Colorado Avalanche didn't play. I think McCarr didn't play. But many of these teams were forced to play some players, like the Leafs, for example, had to play that last game with Marner and Matthews because of the cap situation where their flexibility was not there to call any up. They were so tight against the cap. The risk was that you had to put in an Austin Matthews into the lineup and then risk that he could potentially get injured in a non-meaningful game. And that's what happened potentially with the Dallas Stars. They're in a game where they've already wrapped up and locked in a playoff series for quite a while now. And then Jason Robertson, who could be a difference maker in this series, is now a potential, either he's going to not play or be far less than 100%. To go against the Colorado Avalanche, where you need all hands on deck to ensure that you're going to put your best foot forward, or skate forward, I guess you'd say, to have a chance of winning this series. So a lot of things are standing up with Dallas here, right? There are one of the odds-on favorites to win the Stanley Cup, which I think is a little generous. They have a key injury in Robertson. Tyler Seguin's return, yay, but what's he got left in the tank? I don't know, right? You have Miro Heiskanen, defenseman, may not be ready for the start of the playoffs. There's a second notch against your odds again in this series. And then The Dallas Stars, I didn't even notice this until yesterday and somebody mentioned it. They've lost 7 straight coming into this series. 7 straight to end the season. How ice cold are you? The Dallas Stars lost 7 straight before coming into the playoffs. And they are still at the top of the odds on many of these sports books. It makes 0 sense. And then they got to go on the road to take on the Colorado Avalanche. I don't know. I don't know. When you look at the Avalanche right now, and just to let you know, they have 3 Stanley Cups, 95, 96, and the 2000-2001 season, and a couple seasons ago with Nathan MacKinnon, 2021-22. So they're more of a recent Stanley Cup winner, 3 in their belts. They are plus 850 on FanDuel, plus 900, plus 850 on DraftKings to win the Cup. I don't even see how and why the odds would be stacked against them to be behind the Dallas Stars. It makes no sense, 0 sense, and advantage to you bettors out there who like to bet the futures. There's opportunity there. And you look on the Colorado Avalanche, and some stories here that's actually maybe in the opposite momentum side for the Colorado Avalanche. You got Gabriel Landeskog, captain of the Colorado Avalanche, who's had a devastating, I believe, hip injury that's kept him out for multiple years, multiple seasons. He decides, I'm ready to go, guys. He plays 2 AHL games. He scores a goal. He's back at practicing with the Avalanche. I guess the story is he's probably not going to play game 1, but you need all hands on deck like I talked about. And to have a guy like Gabriel Landeskog follow you along your playoff run can only add value. And what a story. What a story. He's ready to go. You got to love the game to be ready to rehab and grind and be ready to go in the playoffs. Exactly what they need. Excuse me. And on the injury front, Josh Manson and Jonathan Drouin, both out, defenseman and left wing, respectively. From a net mining situation, Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood. Mackenzie Blackwood, he's the guy. Right? He's the guy that's probably going to be the guy carrying the load. But the Avalanche recognized early in the 2024-25 season, this season, that goaltending was a problem. So they moved and made acquisitions of both these guys, and it worked out. And you look at the power play percentages, 24.7% power play. They're clicking 9th. Okay, all right. But anytime you got a Nathan MacKinnon, 4 Nations MVP, on the power play with Cale Makar, watch out. Dangerous as hell. And you got the penalty kill with 14th again, mid-row. Shots on goal also stood out to me. They were 3rd in the NHL, so they put a lot of rubber on net. Let's say they're 5th, averaging 30 shots on net offensively. However, they are also 3rd of shots given up, 26 on average. And that's going to give you a hint to where I'm going, where the series, as far as scoring, is going to happen. Player stats, and you got obviously Nathan MacKinnon, one of the best players in the NHL, 116 points this year, played 79 games, only missed a few games, and most of those are rest, right? And again, let me add in, I put these stats down a game or 2 before the season ended, so I might be off a goal or an assist, so don't crucify me on that one. No pun intended for the weekend. All right, so MacKinnon, Cale Makar, best defenseman in the NHL, 92 points. Insane ability for Makar, game changer. Martin Necas, that is one of the stories here. You have the Mikko Rantanen trade where Mikko Rantanen bounced around from Colorado, apparently, surprised that the Avs decided to move on and send him to Carolina because he didn't have that contract to go beyond the season. He goes to Carolina. The Carolina Hurricanes trade for him, but don't have a contract in place, and then they dump him at the trade deadline. Really embarrassing to them. The Dallas Stars pick him up and sign him to that lengthy contract. So the Dallas Stars are all in on Mikko Rantanen. So is he going to be the story of the series? We'll find out. But Martin Necas is a pretty damn good pickup. Young player, young forward, young centerman out of Carolina. So I think they'll do all right there. You got Brock Nelson coming over from the Islanders at the trade deadline. The Avalanche are loaded up. Taves on the back end with Makar. So it's, how do you look at the series? I mean, they split this series. Sorry, Colorado won the 3 games. Out of 3 games, they won 2 out of the 3. But look at the scores. All right, Dallas won the first game 5-3. Colorado wins 6-3, game 2, and a 4-3 overtime victory for Colorado. Why would the scoring change here? Why would the scoring change here? And that's going to affect what I'm looking at when it comes to the betting lines. And I'm going to give you a perspective that I believe there's going to be a lot of goals. So I got to the value right here is I'm not going to bet the series, but I'm going to take Colorado in the series, minus 152. The odds are better that the Avalanche will win the series, and Dallas's odds on, that's a plus. And I just think two teams going in two different directions. If you look at FanDuel, for whatever reason, FanDuel only has playoff specials for a series in this series. I don't, if I missed it, maybe I missed it, but there's nothing else for any other series other than this one. But one bet that did stand out, will it be 4+ goals on each of these games in the series, plus 135. I just told you the 3 games they played, it's been lights out. They goal scoring. The Avalanche like to shoot, and they like to give up shots. The Dallas Stars got firepower. They got a good penalty kill, but I see this at least 4+ a game. Give me a break, man. Holy shit. 135? Yeah. Give it to me all day. DraftKings looking at player props. Will Nathan MacKinnon have 1 point every game? Man, if you look at his game chart, man, he lights up the scoreboard when he's in the lineup. He's got the puck in his hand. He's very aggressive. He is a hungry player looking to score. I mean, there's a lot of players in the NHL considered superstars or stars that you do not notice out them. Nathan MacKinnon is not one of them. He's a guy that has the puck on his stick. He's making things happen. If he's not putting the puck in himself, he's popping it to Makar. He's giving it on to Natchez. Other guys in that team are going to score. And we're talking about 1 point a game. He's going to be he's the main event, right? He's the main event. So I like that bet, 1 point a game. What else? Plus, so Mikko Rantanen, will he have at least 2 shots? Plus 250 in each of these games? If he doesn't have 2 shots on net, what was the point of bringing Mikko Rantanen in? He's supposed to be that differentiator that the Dallas Stars believe is going to pull them over the top. He's a goal scorer. And he's a guy that could get hot and be a factor in this series, like a turning factor. However, is he all, was he only a factor because he was with Nathan MacKinnon? Well, we're going to find it out. He didn't really put up much in Carolina in a short stint there. Really hasn't blown the doors off in Dallas either. But this is reputation's on the line. His reputation's on the line. But if they can get him going, he could be a pretty dominant player, especially on the power play. So that's what I like there. So that's, what else I got in this one? No, okay, that's the last one I have on that. So Colorado wins this series. That's my thought. Okay, first game, I would take the over, by the way. One more bet, which I found late on DraftKings, which I think is a value bet. Plus 300 that won just one of the games in this series. And many believe this may go 6 or 7. So there's 6 or 7 opportunities for this to happen. Look at that pause. Take a drink, anticipation. That this year, one of these games will have 10 or more goals. 6-4, 5-5, 7-6. There's a good chance, and out of all the series, that there'll be a game or more that the scoreboard will be lit up with goals. So plus 300 in one of these games in this series to go 10 or more goals. I like it, and I find there's real value there. The outcome, if teams lose, Dallas Stars, if they crap the bed and can't win and move on, well, they've already locked in Mikko Rantanen into a contract. I got to believe that they would look to potentially move on from the Jamie Benns of the world, the Tyler Seguins of the world. Look at the roster and look at who's making the $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, but really not providing much, production. It may look at it like the Tampa Bay Lightning did. Look, when they had Steven Stamkos and a decision to re-sign him. Looks like they made the right decision to allocate money elsewhere. So the Dallas Stars look like they're in it to win it. But if they do lose this, I think they're going to tinker with the roster and try to, reshuffle the existing lineup, but exit out those aging stars, like I said, the Seguins and the Jamie Benns and others, and probably make a radical trade to kind of shake it up. But they're going to be back next year despite a loss here in the first round. The Colorado Avalanche, well, they're in the Nathan MacKinnon window. right? You got Nathan MacKinnon. You're never going to step back. You may reshuffle the deck, right? They may look at the goaltending that, yes, Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood have been a tremendous story for the Avalanche midway through the season or early in the season when they picked them up. But I mean, if they're exposed to not be of value because they give up a lot of shots, that you might see a significant change there and maybe a change in philosophy. However, the Avalanche are going to come back, win or lose, because you have the Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar factor. So that's the story in that series, but I think the Avalanche take it. We'll follow along, see what happens. What other news stories in this series? Not much else. All right, we're going to move on to maybe the dullest series of Yawn Fest, and maybe I won't spend as much time here on this series, and that is the Carolina Hurricanes play the Sunday afternoon opener. That tells you the priority for this group. And take on the New Jersey Devils. Carolina. FanDuel has them down as the Stanley Cup favorite. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like Carolina, the reputation is they can't make a run in the playoffs. I mean, they have, or did have, the roster to do something, to do damage over the last few years. But either the goaltending pisses away opportunities or they go cold scoring goals. But right now, as of a few days ago, FanDuel has them plus 750, DraftKings plus 900, and plus 1100 for Bet365. So I guess they did take a step behind Dallas, but that's what it looks like today. Carolina Hurricanes, second in the Metro. They have one Stanley Cup under their belt, 2005-06. And ironically enough, Rob Brindamore, their head coach, was a major factor on that team. So he was part of that team. So he has seen a cup being raised in Carolina. And from the Carolina standpoint, key injuries to pay attention to, really not much. Let's say, I shouldn't have said that. Jesperi Kakanyami missed a week at the end of the season. I don't know his availability coming into game one against the Devils, but man, he was actually signed to an offer sheet for the Montreal Canadiens a few years back, and we believe it was in retaliation because the Montreal Canadiens attempted to sign Sebastian Aho. Well, they did sign him. The Carolina Hurricanes matched it. This was probably a revenge signing, but man, you can't make an emotional decision on your salary cap because he's a waste of time. Kakanyami has done nothing. And really, if he's in or out, I just don't see any impact to him on the series at all. Shane Gostisbehere is an impact. He's been missed the end of the season. Should come back, but if he's not, he will be a problem. I don't think if he is out for this series, it's going to radically change the outcome. But you'd probably want him back, obviously, full health, contributing to be ready to go on a playoff run. Power play wise, the Carolina Hurricanes are 25th. I mean, 25th on special teams, where you're going to be tough to find goals, and you can't pop goals in on the power play. That's going to be their Achilles heel. Great. Penalty kill, they're number one, which will be a factor. But if you can't balance it out with goals, you're going to be watching round 2 or round 3 on your couch. Shots on goal. Here's the weird thing, man. They're number one on shots on goal allowed, 24.9%. That's bad. That's not good. And shots on goal, for them, they averaged 31.8 goals, and they were second in the NHL. So give up a lot of shots and put the puck on net themselves. So the data doesn't tell me anything, right? Are they going to put pucks in or not? So I'm confused where people's mindsets are the Carolina Hurricanes are necessarily a threat in the East and a threat for the Cup, because I don't see it. They're in the show me state. Show me something to believe that you're for real, because I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. Goaltending, they got Peter Kochetkov and they got Frederik Andersen. I think you'll probably, as long as the Hurricanes in the playoffs, Rob Brindamore will probably go back and forth depending on who's got the hot hand. I don't think there's that locked in number one he's going to stick to. So that's, they picked up one of their top prospects. Just came over from Russia, Alexander Nikishin. And you're reading the story here that he actually had to wait for a visa. So he's sitting in Saudi Arabia until he could fly over. So he may become a factor. You don't know. But you need as much depth as possible. And they got nothing to lose by bringing him in and fitting him in where they feel is best. What's going to mark this team, really, the Carolina Hurricanes in this season, is the mess with Mikko Rantanen. They get Rantanen, with the expectation he's going to be that guy. He's going to be that guy that's going to put pucks in the net. He's going to be that difference maker they did not have before. And they panicked. They traded him off. I don't know what the plan was. I mean, if you felt that the only way this works is if you got a signature on a long-term contract, why could the Dallas Stars do it and you couldn't? Right? The Dallas Stars, before making the trade to get him from you guys, obviously figured out, got permission, negotiated a deal, put a signature on a contract before they agreed to trade. But if that was your philosophy in Carolina, what are you doing? What are you doing? And now you got Stankoven, but you lost Natchez and you don't have a Mikko Rantanen. Are you really better off? Are you in a better position? I don't think so. So you got the core players. Sebastian Aho leads the way, but he led the team in 78 games with 73 points. This team's not shooting the lights out, I'll tell you that right now. Seth Jarvis, good player. Centerman, 66 points. Andrei Chenkov, I think he's declined a little bit. He was as a younger player. He was more of impactful. Played 69 games this year, 19 goals. And Gostabert, top scoring defenseman, but he's plagued with injury. I think they're going to limp by the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils, by the way, are third in the Metropolitan. They have 3 Stanley Cups, 1994, 99, 2002. What's common is Marty Brodeur and that New Jersey Devils team that really, really invented or made famous the infamous trap, the defensive style, watching paint dry kind of offense that plagued the NHL for much of the 90s. So when you look at the Devils, their odds are not good. Let's just say there's not a lot of coin going on the New Jersey Devils. There's not a lot of faith with the red and black here. So plus 4,500 for the folks on FanDuel. Bet365 match that plus 4,500, and DraftKings a little more faith plus 3,000. So maybe there is some money coming in on the Devils. Who knows? But when I look at this team, they're actually pretty good. But they're missing Jack Hughes. He's a franchise player. And I don't think they got the horses to make a dip. They had enough horses to get to that playoff spot, to get to that 3rd seed in the Metro. But what do they got? They potentially could have a hot goaltender in Jacob Markstrom, right? Jacob Markstrom's a good goaltender. They got backup Jake Allen. If something happens to Markstrom, they're set net. That's a good start. But Jack Hughes being out, Dougie Hamilton just came back. He's an impactful defenseman. When you look down the roster of impactful players, you got Jesper Bratt, 88 points, 79 games, 21 goals, 67 assists. A difference maker. I don't think he's valued to the general NHL fan base that he should be. Actually, a really good player. Like I said, Jack Hughes missed significant time, only played 62 games, and he's still the second leading goal scorer with 70 points. Nico Hischier, captain of the Devils, 67 points, played 73 games, but still, where's the offense, guys? Where's the offense? It's not going to cut it. Luke Hughes, young defenseman, brother of Jack Hughes, if you didn't put that together. He had a good season, 42 points, 7 goals, 35 assists, up-and-coming defenseman. I don't see any reason why the Hurricanes can't walk over the New Jersey Devils. This is something where if I'm looking at a betting perspective, does this go more than 5? Really? Where do the Devils, even if the Carolina Panthers, even though the Carolina Panthers may not light up the scoreboard, they may win these games 2-1, 3-1, 3-0. They're just a better team. We'll keep puck possession. So when I look at the odds of alternate spread of the series, at Carolina minus 2.5, not 1.5, 2.5. So I'm banking they either sweep the series or win in 5. Plus 170, I think there's value there. I honestly don't think much of Carolina after this series, but I think the Devils are weak without Jack Hughes and really not coming in with anything special or any hope that I could see that can happen in a way that they'll come out on top. Also, when it comes to player props on DraftKings, Seth Jarvis to have, what did I put here? Game plus two, 5 or 6 each game. Plus 2. Oh, is that plus 2 shots a game? Yeah, shots on goal. Sorry. Seth Jarvis to have at least 2 shots on goal in each of the games in the series, plus 275. One of the main guys in Carolina. Like I said, I believe Carolina's going to have puck possession. They're going to, feed Seth Jarvis the puck. And, whether he scores or not, he's going to put the puck on net. So I like that. Bet365, looking for the point leader. It's hard to look at, beyond Sebastian Aho. He's not lighting up the scoreboard compared to other stars in the NHL, but he's plus 300 to lead this series in, plus 300 to lead the series in points. And when you look at the Devils roster, is that going to be spread around if they're going to score goals at all? And then Sebastian Aho is going to be everywhere. So he's the only guy that's going to pick up these assists and feeding and scoring goals. So I like that value here. But enough said on this. Let's look at what happens if one of these, from each perspective, if they get an early exit in the first round. Carolina is really at a crossroads right now. They are at a crossroads right now where what do you do with this franchise? They got to be putting their hands up. If they falter in the first round, which if you lose to the Devils without Jack Hughes, I think you seriously got to consider the direction of where you're taking this hockey club. Major moves to me, if they putter, can't score goals, can't keep the puck out of the net, I think the Hurricanes are in for a big philosophical change. It's either tear it down, significant changes, or you take one kick at the can and try to go all in for a Mitch Marner. What else you got to do? You either all in, chips to the middle, or you say, I'm out. I'm going to sit this hand out. I'll see you in a couple of years when we go through the draft. We make some key plays, but this ain't working. We want a cup. This formula is not working. So Carolina Hurricanes are going to go one of two directions, not in the middle. They're either going to blow it up or they're going to go all in and bring in a significant piece like a Mitch Marner if that is possible. I can't see a middling here. The status quo just ain't cutting it if, for some reason, the Devils walk out with a victory. I don't think they will. From a New Jersey standpoint, they're going to hang their hat on Jack Hughes was not there. And I can't really believe that the Devils can make a true assessment on how they would have had a run if Jack Hughes was in the lineup. They addressed their goaltending. They got Jacob Markstrom. They had Jake Allen. I believe that's no longer an issue, and that was the issue in years past. And I think you just need a healthy Jack Hughes. And you'll probably looking at, making a splash as well. You may have to look at your roster and look at a Nico Hischier. He's a good player. But if you're talking about massaging the cap to put in impact players, you have to think about shifting those good players, really good players, to complement your superstar, which is a Jack Hughes. Your up-and-coming superstar defenseman, Luke Hughes. You have to shift the chair somewhere where there's a change, but I believe that they'll probably take the approach that we're going to stay the status quo and go into the playoffs next year with a healthy Jack Hughes. So we'll see what happens there. So that's the Devils-Carolina series from my eyes. Now, the series that most interests me and most interests everybody in this area, and maybe in all of Ontario, is the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Kick off on Sunday night. The Leafs, one more time, head into the playoffs, looking to make the run that everybody expected the days when Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner came to town, and really expected it when John Tavares was added to that group. Has it happened? No. Reputation? They choke. Reputation of the core four? Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander is that they choke. They do not perform. They can't handle the tough, tight checking of the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, those kind of teams, the Boston Bruins. In those tight series, they cannot perform as they do in the regular season. But hey, we're going to get into it because it's a good thing. They did what they needed to do this year, and that is be number one and win the Atlantic Division to avoid those said Florida teams. Let them beat each other up, as we'll get to that series a little later. But the Toronto Maple Leafs finished number one in the Atlantic. From our betting perspective, that plus 1,300 on FanDuel to win the Cup, plus 1,000 on Bet365, and DK, have it your way, plus 1,200 on DraftKings. So not a lot of faith in the community. But did you know, you non-hockey fans, did you know, you non-Leaf fans, that this franchise actually has 13 Stanley Cups? Keep in mind, the last one was in 1967, the 66-67 season, when there was only 6 teams, the original 6, should be noted. I mean, I have not seen a championship in my lifetime. I have not seen them make a playoff finals run in my lifetime. I've seen 4 conference appearances, which I will say, this city here in Toronto goes absolutely apeshit. When the Leafs are on a run, everybody's opening doors for each other, honking horns, thumbs up, high-fiving, strangers, sharing beers, cheersing. We love the momentum of when the Leafs make a good old-fashioned run. And this city would explode. The city would shut down. All right? This would be unprecedented on a celebration. I don't care what sport. I think this would be an unprecedented celebration if they actually would make a run. Will they? Well, the jury's out on that. I'll go through it and I'll give you my opinion. Is key injuries. They're pretty, at least pretty healthy, actually. David Kemp was Comp. What if I can't? I don't know. I messed up his name. Day to day, I'm sure he'll be available for the playoffs. Max Pacioretty, been away for a long period of time, but he may be available at some point in the playoffs as a depth piece, and he may fit in that top 6 unit some way, somehow, but he's not out of the picture, which is a good sign. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I think, was day-to-day, and also Jake McCabe day-to-day, but I think Jake McCabe played against the Red Wings. He should be good to go. So as far as health, the Leafs are probably in the best situation they've been in a long time. And you look at their power play percentage, they're 7th in the NHL coming into the playoffs. Didn't like how the power play looked in the last few games. This is a team that I believe can hang their hat on the power play. The power play, to me, is critical. That they have an effective, dangerous, lights-out, dominant power play that can be the difference maker in any team that they face. If that power play is, unable to be productive, they're going to be in a shit show of trouble. Let's just face it. When they're 5-on-4, their best players have to dominate. That has to be the difference maker. So that power play is key to me. Penalty kill, they're 19th. Whatever, mid-world, it's okay. Face-off percentage, those stuck out to me. They're 2nd in the NHL face-off percentage. NHL is all about possession, right? So if you got the Austin Matthews, John Tavares of the world winning face-offs at that high rate, that puts the Leafs in a better spot. Goaltending, solid. I will say solid, right? They can go between Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. I got to believe Stolarz will be the guy they ride. But I think you'll see a Joseph Woll appearance at some point in the playoffs, if not back to, if they don't maybe even share the net. But pretty solid. Hopefully both goaltenders can stay healthy. From a season standpoint, Mitch Marner, over 102 points. First time. He was always stuck in the late 90s. Got ahead of it. Austin Matthews hit goal number 400. William Nylander, offensive difference maker. John Tavares, having a great season. Scored 38 goals, if not more, based on the game against Detroit. I didn't really monitor. And he's a free agent, along with Mitch Marner, which could contribute to their, desire to be, really motivated to put up production and put up points. And big paydays are in store for Mitch Marner and John Tavares. From a standpoint, if they can produce in the playoffs. Matthew Knies, here's your difference maker. Matthew Knies is your difference maker, guys. He's your young power forward, will be a restricted free agent. He had 29 goals, 55 points. Again, if I missed a goal, my apologies. Just didn't have time to circle back to that meaningless Detroit game. So he's a guy that needs to stand out, and if he produces like he did in the regular season and becomes the force, Leafs got something going here. They got something special. They have some decent lines, man. They got some depth, right? So we'll see what happens there. Again, news for the Toronto Maple Leafs. You got Mitch Marner, JT, John Tavares, unrestricted free agents, Matthew Nyes. I'll get to what that means if they bow out in the first round. Now you got the Ottawa Senators. Ottawa Senators are playing with house money right now. They have, they've got the first wild card spot. They played a pretty damn good season. Had some significant time at the end there without Brady Tkachuk. But the odds are not for them. Let's say that. I mean, if you really like the Senators to make a playoff run and a Stanley Cup winning run, I just can't see it. I don't see it. But plus 3,800 on FanDuel, plus 3,300 on Bet365, DraftKings plus 3,500, which is pretty damn good. They have 0 Stanley Cups. Okay. Key injuries. Brady Tkachuk looks to be back, but he was out for a while, so he's their most impactful player. Interesting because this is probably his time to shine, right? This tighter checking, rough, physical. This is what Brady Tkachuk is going to be all about. And almost like when they get pumped by the Leafs, and I think they will get pumped, I wonder if the eyes will open that, he looks at this as, is this my max? Is this the best we can hope for? Is that we're going to be a team and a franchise that struggles each year to just make the playoffs, be a low seed and get pummeled, maybe squeak out a first round win. But do I envision myself making a cup run here in Ottawa? And look at my brother. He's coming off he's coming off back-to-back Stanley Cup appearances. He owns a ring. And, the Florida Panthers look to be potentially making another run. I think you'll see fallout here. I think Brady Tkachuk will have a strong series. But I also believe that at some point, he's going to pull the trigger that I want out, despite the contract he signed. Power play, 15th in the NHL, 17th on the PK, so they're mid-row, for these key stats. Now, what's interesting, I just talked about the Leafs being number 2 in face-off percentage. Well, the Sens are number 4. So it's just something to keep in mind. That does Toronto's number 2 status negate the strength of the Senators getting possession? Does that change everything? Or vice versa? I don't know. If you're going to see upsets, it's going to be in the first round. The NHL has traditionally never been a guarantee for any series that you see. So keep that in mind. If you look at the history, it's not unfathomable that there's a first round upset. I just don't see it happening here. I do think that the Maple Leafs talent supersedes the Ottawa talent. The Senators do have Tim Stützle, had a good season, 75 points. Drake Batherson, Jake Sanderson, great young defenseman. Brady Tkachuk and Claude Giroux to top it off as a veteran presence, bringing in experience. Goaltending, they picked up Linus Ullmark from the Boston Bruins last year, difference maker. Man, in the NHL playoffs, if a goaltender stands on his head, that's a problem for any team that can't score. So, the potential's there that Linus Ullmark could be a difference maker. Again, I don't see it. So, where do we go from here? I do believe the Leafs pummel them. Some of the bets that I like in this series include the Leafs' first game, actually game 1, to go over 5.5. As I stated earlier, I do believe there'll probably be more scoring early in the first round in many of these series versus later in the playoffs. So now is the time to strike, and the 5.5 might be almost buy low and sell high. Series spread. Now, let's be very honest with each other here. Do you envision this series going beyond 6 games? Do you envision that the Toronto Maple Leafs are not going to wind up victorious in this series? Well, I don't. So the value here is that if you have the Toronto Maple Leafs are minus 105 to win by plus 114 to win by 2 or more games. There's no way this is going 7. Come on, not happening. Bet365 also has Mitch Marner to lead the series at plus 350. You know what? It's all about the power play. He's the guy with the puck in his hands, and he's feeding Austin Matthews. He's feeding the point. He's feeding the William Nylanders. So he's going to be the guy touching the puck, picking up, not just scoring goals, not having first assists, but he's going to be the guy picking up the second assists. So plus 350, good value. Now the fallout. The Ottawa Senators fall out. The only thing I believe is going to happen is you have maybe Brady Tkachuk. What's his mindset like? Does he want out? Which is a radical negative for the Ottawa Senators if that is the case. That will set their franchise back significantly. From a Toronto Maple Leafs standpoint, well, whoa. If they get knocked off by the Ottawa Senators, I cannot fathom a Brendan Shanahan, president of hockey operations, sitting in front of reporters still stating, I believe in the core four. If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs and lose this series against the Ottawa Senators, and keep in mind, your accomplishment in the regular season was to do exactly what you did, and that is win the Atlantic Division to put yourself in the best position you could, not a guaranteed position. There's no pushovers in the NHL in today's parity. But if you get knocked off by the Ottawa Senators after winning the Atlantic Division, your peak players, your guys in their prime, admittedly look the best they've ever looked, like Austin Matthews, now mid-20s, looks like a man. Like he's absolutely using his strength as part of his repertoire to keep possession of the puck, the brains, the getting right spots, and like 200-foot game. Mitch Marner getting over the 100-point mark. John Tavares looking good, right? And you got the Matthew Nyes, who's been very effective and it seems to be growing in his career to be a power forward in the NHL. You got some good depth. You're getting solid goaltending. Now is the time to make that run. And if you fizzle out, whether it be round 1 or round 2, it's time for significant changes. You do not sniff Mitch Marner re-signing. And if you do, it's on your terms. You're not blowing your brains out to sign a Mitch Marner where somebody else is going to overpay for him to lock Mitch Marner in. If he can't perform, that equals I'm a loser in the playoffs. I cannot perform in the playoffs. I don't care if he scores 200 points in the regular season. If your goal is to raise the Stanley Cup and you walk away with a loss in round 1, even round 2, then you got to go in a different direction and say, Mitch Marner, thanks for the time, but it's goodbye. We're going to find another solution out there. I'm sorry. That's the way it's got to be. Same with JT. You got to have a look at what makes sense. You have a line where you're going to pay him, but you have to make significant changes to the roster if this fails. You're not going to go scorched earth because of the fact that Austin Matthews is signed and many other of these guys are, going to be around a while. You got to hope that you resend a restricted free agent, Matthew Nyes. But if you stick to the same goddamn group, that if they lose, then I might walk away from this team as a fan. I don't care about Mitch Marner. I don't give a shit if he scores, like I said, 200 points. If they cannot perform and effectively at least get to the conference championship and feel in a loss that everything, a bounce here, a bounce there, turn their way instead of getting dominated, then I'm out. I'm out, guys. I can't do it. So it's significant franchise-altering time for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Out of all these teams, this is the team with the significant, eyes-open approach to this first and second round, because that's where you need to be, at least. And this is the biggest impactful series of a loss. This is the team most affected by a first-round loss, even a second-round loss in the NHL. That's my thought. Woo! That Leaf rant, man. These guys drive you crazy. Now we're going to move on. Minnesota Wild, Vegas Golden Knights. And we continue on here. Let me clear the voice. Vegas Golden Knights finished first in the West. Won a Stanley Cup a few years back, 2 years back to be exact, 22-23 season. And this is the franchise that keeps on going, right? From the get-go, they're going to compete. The moves they make, the franchise-altering moves that they make, the player personnel decisions are based on always putting themselves in a window of contention. And for some reason, they do it right, and it works, right? You know that they traded away Nick Suzuki, as an example. He's part of the Montreal Canadiens. He's actually their captain. Great player. But, in the bigger picture for the Vegas Golden Knights, they're going to bring players. Players want to play there. And FanDuel are plus 750. Bet365 plus 850. DK, they're plus 1,000. Key injuries, Jack Eichel looks like a little banged up. I don't see it being significant upper body injury. Alex Pietrangelo, undisclosed. I don't know what his availability is. I haven't caught the latest on that. So something to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's going to be an impactful difference enough where, at this stage of the playoffs, they will change anything for the Minnesota Wild's success against the Knights. Power play, second in the NHL. And penalty kill, 23rd. So they give up goals. However, if you look at some of the special stats that make the Vegas Knights goal stand out, goals allowed, they're third. So they keep the puck out of the net. Aiden Hill. Shots on goal, fourth. They pummel the opposition, 30.1 average shots on net. Goals are fifth, scoring an average 3.33 goals a game. Penalty minutes, they are second. They only take 5.7 minutes per game on average. When I'm looking at this roster too, right? Maybe this team is the one poised to take a run. It really looks like it. I mean, they're very balanced. They've done it before. You look at Jack Eichel, 93 points a season. Mark Stone, if he can stay healthy, impact, especially in the playoffs. Thomas Hertl, 59 points. Shea Theodore on the point, along with Alex Pietrangelo and Noel Hanifin. Ivan Barberstev, 50 points. They have what it takes to make a run. I mean, Aiden Hill, surprising me. This guy was on the roster for the Four Nations for Team Canada, Stanley Cup winner. He's actually been an impact player before being a journeyman in his previous stints in other places. Watch out for the Knights, man. They're going to make a run. It's significant. You'll hear about this run a little bit later. Moving on to the Minnesota Wild. No cups in their not so long history. They've been around a while. Plus 4,100 on FanDuel to win the cup. 365 has them 4,500. And DK, a little more optimistic. Have it your way. 3,500 for the Minnesota Wild to raise the Stanley Cup. Penalty kill, 19th in the NHL. Sorry, power play 19th in the NHL. Not so special. Penalty kill, 30th. What was the Knights' power play? Second? 30th? Second? 30th? Second? 30th? Does that seem like a problem to you? Well, it seems like the problem to the Wild. So maybe this is where they get lit up. And this is the difference maker, right? It's no surprise that Vegas is 3-0 against the Wild this season. Close games. However, close is not winning. So I'd see the Wild struggling in this series. They got really no key injuries, which is solid. They got all their guys back. They got players. Matt Boldy led the team with 73 points. You have Kaprizov, he is an impact player. Was injury short in 41 games this year. But if he can go off, they got a shot, potentially. I don't think much of one, but they got a shot. Matt Zuccarello, Marco Rossi, centerman, 60 points. Frederick Gunderson, center. Frederick Gaudreau, not Gunderson. Gaudreau. It's not happening, though, guys. Minnesota Wild, this is going to be a pretty quick series. I don't think there's much to look at here. It's kind of like driving on the freeway and you see an accident. You're just going to drive on. You may dip your head over, watch it. But I think this is a foregone conclusion that the Knights are going to easily handle this team. And if I look at a batting standpoint, the Vegas Golden Knights are minus 235 in the series, and I think it's going to be pretty significant. Golden Knights, though, plus 140 to win this game by two or more. No way. No, I don't get those odds. Take it. Minus 105. My bad. Game one, I meant to plus 140 for the Knights to win 2 goals or more. I think there's value there. Also, DK, Jack Eichel. Actually, no, DK. I was going to bring this up. Is that player specials? This seems to be at the spot where these later series have not populated DK specials. So look forward to that. Just don't have them available now. Bet365, Jack Eichel, plus 350 to lead this series in scoring, meaning points. I like that. He's going to be their impact player. We'll come back to more general bets, which will include the Vegas Golden Knights later. But that's all I got to say about this. Fallout. man, if the Vegas Golden Knights lose this series, I expect them to do some reloading some way, somehow. I don't know how they manage the cap better than anybody else. I don't know if it's I don't know how they do it, but they've wound up having a strong team heading into the playoffs, signing contracts to their favor. The cap's going to go up. I don't expect them to change their philosophy. Whether they make a Stanley Cup run, whether they get knocked out in the first round, it's going to be reload and let's go. Let's go. So that doesn't change for the Vegas Golden Knights. Minnesota Wild, well, to me, they're right there. They're one of those insignificant teams at the moment. Let me, eke my way into the playoffs. Do I maybe I get a first round upset? They're kind of like that Ottawa scenario. Really, they're like a rudderless ship. Got some nice talent, but until you get serious, all right, come back later. There's nothing happening here. So not much to say about the Minnesota Wild, really at all. So that's the story in the Vegas Knights and the Minnesota Wild. The next up is the Montreal Canadiens. The Abs, les Habitants, take on the Washington Capitals, the number one team in the Eastern Conference. Last time these two met in the playoffs, Kent did not record the year. The Montreal Canadiens went on a run. They went through the Washington Capitals. So here's our take on this series. The Washington Capitals, number one team in the Eastern Conference. Really no respect. Plus 1,000 FanDuel, 365 plus 1,000, 1,100 on DK. The Caps have won Stanley Cup under their belt, 2017-18. Really, I think significant because, we want Ovi, the leading NHL goal scorer of all time, has to have a ring, and he deserved the ring. He earned the ring. So kudos to him, one of the greats of the NHL, one of the greats I've ever seen, pure goal scorer. So kudos to him, fan favorite. It's hard to. He's a guy that you want to see be successful. That's just, whether he's got a cup or not, you might want to see him have two. I wouldn't be disappointed if that was the case. But this Cap team, we're getting into a scary scenario here, man. I do not like the Montreal Canadiens at all when it comes to a lock to lose in that first round. There's something about the aura of the Montreal Canadiens where they have somebody or some guys get friggin' red hot, and usually they're goaltending, and maybe it's a Sam Montembeault here. But from the Caps' perspective, when they look at their key injuries, Logan Thompson, goaltender, he's day-to-day. Will he be 100% in net? And he was the guy carrying the load for the Capitals. We know about Nick Backstrom. He was done early in the season, but really didn't impact and also TJ Oshie was done. Both players in the past, significant pillars to the Washington Capitals. However, really weren't much of this team's success this year, but they're out, just worth noting. Power play, number 13 in the NHL, even with OV popping goals in at those one-timers. Really mid-row in the NHL. Penalty kill was pretty impressive. They were 5th in the NHL. Some other stats that stand out by the Washington Capitals. 29th penalty minutes. I mean, this is really an open wound right here, man. If you're taking penalties, that could be where the Montreal Canadiens step in and have a chance. If that habit continues in the playoffs. Shooting percentage, man, they're number one. Every 12.7 shots results in a goal. Goal percentage, they were second. They averaged 3.51 goals a game. But their stock might be down leading into the playoffs here. I mean, Washington kind of is limping in after the OV series, after the OV record was broken, the Gretzky record, that is. Dylan Strome led the team 78 points. Ovi with 43 goals. I think it's 44 now because of that last game. Pierre-Luc Dubois, Tom Wilson, they're a big team. I mean, maybe built for the playoffs. Pierre-Luc Dubois pops up every so often as an impactful player. Then a team wants to get rid of him, a.k.a. the Jets, a.k.a. the Kings. Really underachieving player, but has had a solid season this year. Tom Wilson, though, is an impactful player. So are they going to be able to push the Canadiens around? Potentially. Absolutely, potentially. But if there is a series, I think that might result in a potential upset. Not saying it's going to happen, but this is it. This is it. We're the Habs. I know we're playing with house money here, but let's go into the Habs. They're plus 11,000 to win the Stanley Cup. There wasn't a line when I checked on 365. I'm sure it's there today. And DK plus 10,000. Habs get no respect. Not shocking. They're the last team to get into the playoffs. Kirby Dach is the only guy really significantly out, but he was out for a lengthy period of time. Not really a part of this run or an impact player that I see that impacts anything going to this round. 21st in power play percentage. Not necessarily red hot. 9th in penalty kill. Penalty minutes, again, 2 teams. 26 in opposite directions. So they don't take a lot of penalties compared to the Washington Capitals. Shots on goal, the lowest, 25.6 on average. Yeah. So there you go. No, sorry. Shots on goal, they're giving up 25.6. Sorry. So that's not good. I mean, that should favor the Caps. The Montreal Canadiens, if you didn't know and you have no idea about the history of the NHL, own the most Stanley Cups, 24. Last one being in 92-93. So big, long, successful history of the Montreal Canadiens. As a Leaf fan, it sucks for me to say it, but it's true. They ran the NHL for a lengthy period of time. No longer, but, I mean, they're not beyond a major upset. So watch out. Nick Suzuki, young captain for the Montreal Canadiens, 87 points. Cole Caulfield, these guys are a good duo on the ice. Lane Hudson, potential, probably odds-on favorite to win the Calder for Rookie of the Year. Had a great season, D-man, 65 points. Impact player, impactful in their Stanley Cup run. We talked about Savgiro Slavkovsky, left winger for the Montreal Canadiens, first overall pick a couple of years back, first overall in a pretty weak draft. However, I do see him as a potential guy where the playoffs may suit, being tight checking, utilizing his strength. So he may be somebody to watch. Brandon Gallagher, man, he is, I think he's early 30s, but I swear he's been around for 20 years for the Montreal Canadiens. Compared to the rest of the team, is the elder statesman. Like I talked about, Sam Montembeault in net. Jurkov Dubas, Czech Republic goaltender. Pretty solid in net. I mean, Martin St. Louis got this team going. So again, I don't know if it's going to result in an upset, but if there's an upset, it's not going to surprise me. It's the Montreal Canadiens. And really not much to talk about. If you like the upset plus 220, I wouldn't put too much on that. DK has plus... when you got Ovi in the series, DK has a fun bet. If you like to believe that there's going to be at least one hat trick in this series, probably Ovi, plus 200. Maybe worth a look. And the series over... point half. What the hell did that mean? Oh, yeah. Sorry, that was the hat trick. The hat trick was the only play I would thought was, something worth mentioning. So that's what I got to say about that. Washington, if they get bowed out here, it looks like as long as Ovi is with the Capitals, they're going to try to keep a team that's going to make a run. I don't know if that changes because he really pumped those pucks in the net this year that broke the record that maybe was thought was going to go over to next year. So pretty interesting. If they get knocked out, hey, there might be a change or two, but I think they're pretty locked into the roster that they have. The only thing you might see is somehow to clear up cap room that you got the Nick Backstroms of the world that his career might be over, getting traded somewhere else to, change the accounting. That's it. When it comes to the Montreal Canadiens, here's the risk that the Montreal Canadiens have is that they made a tremendous run here where they made the playoffs. But are they going to move ahead their agenda and their timeline? Maybe. Is that a mistake? Possibly. Are they going to make a mistake and try to sign a free agent for the sake of signing a free agent to an ugly contract to try to make that next step? There's a real possibility that they may do that. So watch out, Montreal. I mean, you got a good build here. Just be careful you sign the right free agent and not the free agent for the sake of. We've seen that a few times in the NHL. So they could be on the right track. They got to be very smart. But they may jump the gun and sign somebody they'll regret later. All right. moving on to the second last series we're going to cover here, and that is the Tampa, Florida series. Now, this is the series that the Toronto Maple Leafs like because you're looking at two significant teams that you want to see beat the living shit out of each other. The Battle of Florida, and you want to walk through the Sens as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan in 5 or 6 games. Let this Tampa, Florida team or series go the distance. Let these guys drop off like flies, whether they're not 100% or maybe don't make it through the series. That might sound bad, but that's just the way it's going to be. The Tampa Bay Lightning are probably the most forgettable, not by me. I'm just saying I believe that they're being forgotten, that they are not too long in the past where they were in the Stanley Cup final, a 3-in-a-row Stanley Cup run, 2 of which resulted in Stanley Cups. They've won 3 Stanley Cups in their franchise history, 2003, 2004, way back, and recently 1920 and 2021. And much of this roster is still latent with that talent, but also reloading in a few areas, and we'll talk about that in a bit. FanDuel has them down plus 1,200, plus 1,200 on 365, and plus 900 on DK. What a series, right? This is a tight series. I think the foregone conclusion of many is that the Florida Panthers are going to walk over the Lightning. Not so much. Guys, not so much. Watch out. This Lightning team has got some answers to questions that are being asked. I mean, from an injury standpoint, Oliver Bjorkstrand is out week to week. I don't know what his availability is going to be in the series. Luke Glendening out, no timeline. So will they make an impact in the series? I don't know, but they got enough depth that I think they can overcome it. Power play percentage for the Lightning, 5th in the NHL, 7th in penalty kill. So very solid on both ends. They're loaded on weapons on the power play, and we'll talk about those. Shooting percentage, 2nd in the NHL, which is significant. Goals, 1st in the NHL. That means they put up 3.59. So offensively, they got what it takes. They got the horses, right? And you look at this roster. Nikita Kucherov, 83 assists, 119 points, 36 goals. Game changer. Right? 2-time Stanley Cup champion. He is a player. He's going to put up points. Brandon Hagel, 79 points. Braden Point, man, this guy is a player. Braden Point. There's a reason why he was an impact in the Four Nations. Victor Hedman on the point. But what I want to point out is that a franchise like Tampa Bay smartly looked at their roster last year and said, look, we got to kind of reshuffle. We got the guns here that are going to be impactful. So let's look at our roster. Steven Stamkos was not a guy that they could afford to re-sign to a big contract to impact the cap. Yes, it was a nice potential story to bring him back. However, I believe they did the right thing. They sacrificed, a good, nice, wholesome story for the fact that they could sign Jake Getzel, replaced with a younger, more impactful talent that was the right play. They put themselves in a better position to go up against a Florida Panther team. He had 79 points this year, scoring 40 goals, which is impactful. This is a smart franchise that knows where they're at in the pecking order. And to make a move like replacing a Stamkos for a Getzel, very smart. Organizationally, very smart. So, Andrei Vasilevskiy, veteran goaltender, Stanley Cup champion, significant piece. When you got him, there's a chance that you might do some damage here. But on the other side, you got a Bobrovsky. Sergei Bobrovsky is a significant player, a significant impact goaltender of the Florida Panthers. Defending Stanley Cup champions, their one Stanley Cup came last year, 2023-24 season. Matthew Tkachuk is going to be coming off an injury. It looks like he'll be ready, but he missed some significant time heading into the playoffs. He's a factor. How is he 100%? Don't know. Aaron Ekblad, a star defenseman, 20-game suspension will end midway through the series. I believe Game 3. He'll be available. Was missed due to suspension due to drugs. There's a better word for it. He'll return. And this team loaded up, right? They went out and got Seth Jones, defenseman out of Chicago, significant piece, really committed to him, not for this season just, but beyond that. And you have Brad Marchand, who never, ever looked like he was going to be wearing a jersey other than a Boston Bruins jersey, but not so. Bruins were smart. They're not going in the direction they wanted to, so they unloaded Brad Marchand so he can make a cup run. He's happy. Bruins are going to be happy. So smart there. They're trying to load up. How healthy are they going to be? I don't know. From the season standpoint, they were 11th in the power play. They were 10th penalty kill. So they were mid-row, but they're really loading up for the playoffs. Really focused, was making another cup run. This would be a third cup appearance if that's what they're going to do. Shots on goal, third. So they put the puck on net. Shots on goal allowed, fourth. So they allow pucks on net because they have the confidence in Sergei Bobrovsky. So he is definitely, he's the best goaltender in the playoffs heading in right now. I don't care about Connor Hellebuck or anybody else. I put my money on Bobrovsky. The Tampa Bay Lightning are going to have to do something significant, and they can. The potential's there to put pucks behind him. Sam Reinhart, Barkov, Kachuk, Verhagen, Sam Bennett, Marchand, significant players here. So how's this series, from a betting perspective, play out? There is the Tampa Bay, they're slight underdogs. One is 105 on 365. So it could go either way. Do I expect it to go Tampa's way? I do. I really do. I think this time that the Tampa Bay Lightning are surprised not being respected. They have the guns to go through the Florida Panthers here. I think it's going to happen. So when we look at the odds on for the betting, Sam Reinhart to have 4 more goals in a series that may go 6 or 7, plus 195. Yeah, Sam Reinhart of the Panthers. Give me that action. 4 or more goals. Jake Getzel, plus 230 to have 4 more goals. Yeah, give it to me, right? And Nikita Kucherov, plus 425 to have 5 goals in this series. I think you're going to really see one game where he dominates and puts, at least he has a hat trick in the series. Let's say that. Any game to go to OT, double OT. Well, I guess if there's a series that's going to have a game that goes to double OT at plus 350, I'm hemming and hawing to put some cheddar on this one. Plus 350 could happen. Double overtime in this series. So what happens if fallout, if things don't go their way in the first round? Well, Tampa, I think they tinker, but I think they feel the roster's in a good spot. And if they lose to the defending Stanley Cup champions, I don't think that's panic time. So they reload in some way, somehow, but I don't think they break up the band too much. The Florida Panthers, if they lose, I think that's a significant blow, but I got to believe that they are going to make another run at it. So both teams, I believe, will have status quo with obviously making some tinkering along the way. Now, final series. We have the Edmonton Oilers taking on the best home record LA Kings. And again, I said at the start of this podcast, which was almost over an hour and a half ago, was that the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers are meeting for the 4th consecutive year in the first round, spiced up by the fact that there was some bad blood in that last game that the Edmonton Oilers probably brought their less than stellar team. No, that's a fact. They didn't. And, kind of got under the skin of the LA Kings. Some quotes that, felt like the Oilers are trying to harm the Kings, knowing that they got to meet in the first round. Hey, kudos to the Oilers if that's what their plan was, if they felt it was going to give them an advantage. Oilers plus 950 to win the Stanley Cup, plus 900 on 365. That 950 was FanDuel, plus 900 on DK. So where do we go from here, right? This also, Edmonton Oilers got to the Stanley Cup final. In their history, they have 5 Stanley Cups. Made a Stanley Cup appearance last year, Game 7, losing to the Florida Panthers. Are they the same team that's going to make a run here again? Well, arguably they got the 2 best players in the world on the roster ready to go. But they may be in a position right now where the 2 top players in the world are going to have to carry the Edmonton Oilers more than they did in previous years. And here's why. You have even Draisaitl's a little banged up. He should be good to go in Game 1. But you have Trent Frederick, doubtful for Game 1. Zach Hyman, he could be ready, but how healthy is he? Will Evander Kane make an appearance in this series? Big blow. Matthias Ekholm, defenseman, rock solid defenseman, not going to be available in this first round for the Edmonton Oilers. They brought in John Klingberg. I don't know what his stat. He's been gone. He's really fizzled out as being anything of an impactful signing for the Edmonton Oilers. And now there's still questions about their goaltending. Stuart Skinner had a great playoff run last year. Really solidified himself as a valued member of the Edmonton Oilers and one of the reasons why they made that cup run. But the jury's still out on Stuart Skinner. Again, he's kind of faltered off. Their power play, 9th in the NHL, penalty kill, 16th. This team's in real trouble. They lost home ice advantage. I mean, they were banged up for a lengthy period of time, losing significant players. They probably dropped points they didn't want to drop. Four Nations really taxed some of their great players, like Connor McDavid, no question about it. And they dropped significant points and put the LA Kings in a better position than they've probably ever been to knock this Oilers team off. So this is a very interesting battle for a fourth straight year. Kings are the best home team in the NHL. They are not flashy. I'll tell you that right now. They are not flashy. Just the fan in me hopes that the Oilers can knock the Kings off, because I don't want a team that spreads out their scoring. I mean, they're a pretty good team, don't question about it, but not appealing on the eyes. Let's say that. So the Kings plus 2,100 to win the Cup from FanDuel, 1,800 on 365. DK has them at plus 2,000. They have 2 Stanley Cups under their belt, 2011, 12, 2013, 14. And some of the players to watch out for the Kings, Andre Kempe, he led the team with 68 points. That tells you what you need to know about the entertainment value of the LA Kings. From a betting perspective, it's not about entertainment, it's about results. So I'm not going to confuse the two. Sometimes I do when it comes to betting, but the LA Kings are not easy on the eyes when it comes to watching. The veteran Anze Kopitar, 65 points. Kevin Fiala, 56 points. Quentin Byfield, early first-round pick a few years back, 53 points. Big, strong kid. Might make a difference here in this series. He's getting closer and closer to his prime. Power play, 25th in the NHL. Again, another red flag for entertainment value. Penalty kill, 6. Again, this team is significantly successful on keeping the puck out and putting the puck in. 825 home winning percentage, best in the NHL. 31, 5, and 4. Just all boring, but dangerous. Dangerous. Darcy Kemper, David Rittich, not really strong in net. I mean, Darcy Kemper gets the job done, but it's the goals allowed. For example, they only allow 2.44 goals a game. And that's because they're very good defending. Let's not kid ourselves. That's their bread and butter. Now, from a betting perspective, let's look at what we got. And looking at from a perspective that the Oilers are going to rely heavy on their megastars, not superstars. We're putting to another level of megastar. Where's the papers? Where is the Montreal? Where's my papers? Kings. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. All right. Oilers, Kings. Right now, Draisaitl to have 5 or more goals in this series, plus 500. The guy led the NHL in goals. He's the focal point of the offense when it comes to the power play. There's a chance that he can have multi-goal games in multiple games in this series. So plus 500, 5 goals or more for Leon Draisaitl. I like it. Connor McDavid, 4 goals or more, 235. I like it. There's value there. Draisaitl also 4 goals or more plus 235. I think that's a lock to me, despite the defensive prowess of the LA Kings. And plus 185, you notice it's a little lower than the other series. For a hat trick, McDavid, Draisaitl, one of them is going to go off. If not, a healthy Zach Hyman might also benefit from a hat trick. I like it. Plus 160, McDavid leads the series in points. Who else is going to lead the series in points? Who's going to have the puck on their stick? It's going to be Connor McDavid. I don't care what defensive game plan. You may slow him down, but he's going to produce. He's the best player in the world, hands down, the most impactful player in the NHL, regardless of what you do to try to slow him down. Goals. Leading the series in goals, Bet365 is Leon Draisaitl plus 300. How can you not like that one? So there's a good chance the LA Kings might knock the Edmonton Oilers off. The Edmonton Oilers are limping into the playoffs and do not look like the team that went into last year's playoffs with injury and maybe lower performance. That doesn't mean it can't change. And the significance of how a Leon Draisaitl and a Connor McDavid can just take over. Absolutely take over. So let's hope the Oilers win, but it's going to be in the backs of the two horses. So that's it for the series. Edmonton Oilers, if they don't win, I think obviously McDavid and Draisaitl are not going anywhere. They do probably have to have different philosophies and have to keep reshuffling the deck. What's the future of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, man? He's a nice little player, but is he producing at the clip of a first overall pick? No, but I think you're beyond that thinking anyway. Do you have to utilize something to get a goaltender? I mean, they've tried to sign free agents and make trades for goaltenders, and it doesn't work out. Unless somebody significant is there, I don't know if you go away from Stuart Skinner and try allocating resources. I think you might allocate resources for, bottoms, top six forward that can make more of an impact, maybe a proven impact. But it's all going to be on the shoulders of Draisaitl and McDavid. You have to, you do have to change some of the other actors, but it's all going to be them. Simple as that. You're going to go back to the well. The LA Kings, boring. I know you got Will Ferrell, the elf, watching your games. You got a great home record, but let's ask yourself: do you have the horses to knock off, let's say, the Edmonton Oilers next year in your fifth time? You're going to, if you don't do it this year, if you had 4 cracks at it and you can't do it, it's time to look different, for a different roster makeup. Anze Kopitar, nice, great, hey, great to be here, but he's not going to get you anywhere anymore. That his Stanley Cup years are behind him. You're going to have to rely on the Quentin Byfields, and what do you surround him with? And maybe the Kings go out, and I talked to a few teams, you start a bidding war for Mitch Marner. Guys, that's it. You want to change the culture? It's opposite of what the Leafs would do. You'd probably say goodbye because he wasn't getting you close to a Stanley Cup, but he's a shiny new toy for the LA Kings. So you make that change. You look for that team that's dumping and also looking for radical change and moving to maybe pick up a defenseman. And you jump in there because you want that forward. You need to make that move, guys. Kings, you cannot stay stagnant going into another year if the Oilers knock you off. They are better than you and not going anywhere. The Vegas Knights are going to reload. They're not going anywhere. There are other up-and-coming teams that they're going to be coming from somewhere, and you're going to be left behind to be in a playoff, maybe get home ice advantage. You'll never get out of that second or third seed. If that's your bar you want to set, you're already there. If you want to set the bar higher, you need to make a change, a philosophical change if you're an LA King. That being said, moving on to some general bets and final thoughts on the NHL and leading into the playoffs. Some interesting bets. This is where Bet365 has some cool ones. I know it's already on DK as well, so it's not exclusive to Bet365. Do we truly believe that this is the year that a Canadian team wins the Stanley Cup? Right? You got the Winnipeg Jets, President's Trophy winners. You have the Toronto Maple Leafs that may be peaking and have a roster that may be maximized and maybe make the run we're all hoping to be. Don't see much from the Sens and don't see much from the Canadians. So, am I missing anybody else? The Oilers. So, the only hope is the Leafs, Oilers, and the Jets. Plus 240, minus 330 for the U.S. team. So, it's up to you. If we believe in the Leafs, believe in the Oilers and the Jets. I don't see the Jets, and just simply because I just don't see the Jets. Conference, here's real value to me. So listen up, listen good, have that pencil in hand or note it on your iPhone. Conference winning division, meaning that the team that's going to win the conference, which division did they come from? In the West, plus 135 Pacific. Am I really honing my thought process Excuse me. So let's do this. Conference winning division, Pacific for me. Cup, plus 325, Pacific. Here's why. Vegas Golden Knights, I think, are peaked to make a run. So I wouldn't be surprised they represented the Western Conference in the Stanley Cup Final. But also, if the the Oilers can get healthy, there's nothing that can stop the Draisaitl's, McDavids of the world. So you're banking on the Oilers and the Knights to reach the Stanley Cup, and that is or win the Stanley Cup. So there's good value, plus 325. Somebody from the Pacific Division wins the Stanley Cup, or even just wins the conference. Vegas plus 500 to win the conference winner, specifically the Vegas Golden Knights. That means they reach the Stanley Cup Final. I talked about them. They're well-rounded. If they don't get banged up, look at their defense core, right? Theodore, Pietrangelo, Noah Hannafin, Aiden Hill has been very, very big performing playoff goaltender. So don't put it past them. What else we got here? Also, DK, first round wins. Oh, here's pretty cool bets, right, from DraftKings. Will there be a wild card team, and that's the winner? That's the Montreal Canadiens, Ottawa Senators, Minnesota Wild, St. Louis Blues. One of those teams or more would win a first round playoff matchup. I am saying no. That's why I will say 0 plus 320 that none of the wild card teams will have success in the first round. Does the St. Louis Blues scare me? Yes. Does the Montreal Canadiens scare me against the Washington Capitals? Yes. But I still lean towards both those teams not getting the job done. So 0 is my play. DraftKings total OT games, round 1 over 10. How many games will go to OT? Over 10.5 games. So you have 8 series. 28 games guaranteed if every game finished 4. So there's more, obviously. Well, 10.5 will under or over those games go to overtime. I think under, minus 105. I just don't see that amount of overtime games happening. There might be a series that has multiple overtime games. Nah, I don't see it. Also, will any of the series, like how many shutouts will we see in the first round? Over, under 3.5. I think I'm on the side of we're going to see an uptick in goals early and often in the first round, and we're going to see less than 3.5 shutouts. That's my take. My final thoughts are that I hope to circle back and continue on the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting podcast to talk about the NHL playoffs, what's happened, how the betting landscape has changed, how my thoughts have changed. Maybe go off on a rager if the Toronto Maple Leafs falter in the first round, or maybe the second. Really get angry. And we're going to go from there. So I'm hoping you enjoyed the podcast. I hope it added value to your preparation for your betting bonanza when it comes to the NHL playoffs. Hope you're pumped like I am for this series to kick off tomorrow night. Hope you're scratching your head like I am on the schedule. But it is what it is. Enjoy it. The pleasure's all been yours. The Overrated Experience is over and out. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.